Hi, my name is Jacob Adams. I'm a fitness and leadership coach. I help people just like you achieve more. I'm also the creator of the construct known as common sense self-mastery. Have you ever come across that Bible verse that goes something like this? It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And been sort of perplexed as to what that meant. Did it mean that you couldn't be rich if you wanted to go to heaven? Did it mean that it was just going to be really hard? I know when I first heard that as a kid, I was very perplexed. I was maybe 6 years old, 7 years old, and I heard it, and I, in many ways, felt very traumatized because I didn't know what this meant for me. I didn't know what it meant for the world. I didn't know what it meant about rich people. I was just, well, damn, I guess, what does this mean? And then I think it's also one of those Bible verses that makes people that want to achieve certain things in life sort of discount the Bible, right? They kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. I know I did that. I did that at some point, at some level, for many reasons, this being one of them. So back in 2012-13, I was actually very fortunate to have subscribed to some lessons by Paramahansa Yogananda. And in those lessons, he discussed a story, which I'll share with you today. Okay? So God was in heaven and with an angel. And there was two men on earth that God wanted to test. So he sends his angel down to earth and he says, look, I want you to go down there and give them a test. Whichever one of these men is worthy and passes my test, I will bring to heaven. And so one of these men was a saint. So the angel goes down, and the reputation of this man was that he was this well-known saint, that he was always meditating, always saying holy things. And the angel comes to him, and he's under a palm tree of some sorts, meditating. And the angel says, Saint, the Lord has asked me to come and tell you that he will bring you to heaven when a camel can go through the eye of a needle. And to which the man stands up immediately and says, what? You blasted angel? How dare you come to me and tell me this terrible news? How dare you come and tell me after I spent all my life meditating and being a holy man? How dare you come to me and tell me this terrible news that God will take me to heaven when a camel can pass through the eye of a needle? That's crazy, right? And so the angel flies away scared and traumatized, like, oh my goodness, that was a crazy man, that was unexpected. And so the angel eventually gets to the other man. Now, the man that he comes to next is a known drunk. People know him to be a drunk man, and he talks a lot of, the blasphemies and cusses, and people know him to be just sort of an irrational, crazy drunk man. You know the type. We all know someone like that. I'm sure we can see him all across the street somewhere at some corner at any point, right? Well, anyways, this man does have a job, and he's working, and he's actually digging a hole, putting a pillar, this post for a fence down. And the angel tells that same man, he says, listen, I've been sent by God. And the drunk goes, what do you want, you blasted angel? What do you want here? Why don't you leave me alone? I'm working. But the angel says, listen, sir, God has asked me to tell you that he will take you to heaven when a camel can pass through the eye of a needle. The man is digging his post, and to which he stops and he starts laughing jubilee. He starts rolling on the floor, and it's quite the sight. And to which the angel is also perplexed. He's like, oh my goodness, well, the Lord sent me to test these crazy men, right? But this man rolling on the floor soon tells the angel, then I will see you today in heaven with the Lord, because to the Lord that is the easiest task. To the Lord that can do anything, passing a camel through the eye of a needle is of no work at all. He will easily do that. And to which the angel sort of was taken aback, but he said, very well. I'll relay your message to the Lord. So he goes back to heaven, and it says, and God says, well, angel, tell me about what you heard. And then the angel tells him first about the saint. And he says, Lord, I told the saint under the tree what had happened, and he actually said nothing. He was very upset that when I told him that, because he said, how dare he waste his entire life meditating and searching for you, and only to have not been fulfilled by your promise on any level, and so he felt his entire life was a waste, and he's actually not going to be a saint anymore. He's actually going to fall into a life of, you could say, godlessness in a way, right? And so God says, I see, I understand, and tell me of the other man. And then the angel begins a story, and he says, well, what I found very odd was this man was a drunk, and he had a bad reputation across town. But when I told him that you would take him to heaven when a camel could pass through the eye of a needle, he began to laugh. He began to laugh a lot, and he said he would see you today, because for you that was no task at all. And so, to which God said, yes, because he knows me. And since he does know me, bring him up to heaven at once. Take a moment to take that story or replay it or pause the tape now if you need to. That story to me says so many things. It means that, to me, what I first understood is we cannot judge others because we don't know their heart. Even at the same time, what it also said was, even our very own self, we do not know fully what is in our heart. And sometimes we'll be tested in life. And at those moments, our true knowledge and true connection to God will be what matters most as to whether or not we continue on the path or make it to heaven. You see, because you could say that on one end, the holy man was seemingly the one that should have gone because he was always meditating. And on the other end, the drunk is the person that should have not gone. But he knew God in his heart, which is why God asked him. He actually knew God in his heart. And so, take that story and connect it to the first verse in the Bible that says, for it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter heaven. Well, take that story for a second, and now what I realized is that it really is up to a person to decide whether or not they are knowledgeable of God, or they have God in their heart, or are living a clean life that is worthy of God's in their life. In other words, no one can tell us, no one can tell you what exactly is holy living, what exactly is the knowledge of God. To a very much big extent, you have to know in your deepest of hearts whether you do know God or not. And for me, when I read that story, that was the biggest realization, that you have to take the scriptures and then internalize them and lay them in your heart, and then allow that wisdom to unveil to you where it is that you stand. And in that position within yourself, in that very sincere, honest, sober position, there you will find whether your riches are actually affecting you negatively or positively. And that is the biggest peace, that understanding these things have given me. They've given me the peace to search inward for my peace and for my overall understanding of where I stand in the spectrum, whether you drink alcohol, whether you don't, whether you're rich, whether you're not, whether you have a good reputation, whether you don't. You really look inward for where you stand, okay? And that's been the biggest thing. And so in the past, we could have well, like I said, growing up, we thought, okay, it was rich. Okay, maybe that person's rich. Okay, they're not going to heaven, right? So we sort of looked at the external. And now going forward in today's understanding, we could see that it's not so much about the external. You know, is someone like a famous rapper saved or not saved, or going to heaven or not? You know, we can make speculations. You know, we consistently say, okay, well, if someone does the Illuminati sign and they're a musician, then they worship Satan, or okay. We don't necessarily know, right? There's things about that we can say maybe they are Illuminati, maybe they do worship Satan, or maybe they are involved in, you know, pedophile rings, or who the hell knows, right? We don't really know. We don't know. I mean, we're living in a time where we've seen the guy from Subway go to jail for pedophilia. Who saw that coming? The guy that sells sandwiches. Who saw that coming? And we've seen Robin Williams commit suicide. We've seen like crazy things happen in the world of success and wealth, right? I made a video earlier that Elon Musk is going through divorces, and he's tall, rich, good looking, funny, whatever, you know. And so what I'm saying is, really, you cannot judge from the exterior alone, is really what I'm trying to get at here. And so let this story and the rich man entering heaven and the camel through the eye of the needle kind of bring this together for yourself, to let yourself understand that it's not really the external world as much as it is the internal that ultimately decides of whether we go to heaven or not, okay? Today, I want to share with you 3 of the main questions and ideas that you want to think about when deciding whether or not you are on the right path for yourself, okay? When it comes to riches and wealth. The first thing you want to ask yourself is, what is my motive, okay? In other words, let's just say me, I want to be wealthy. I want to be a multimillionaire. And the thing is, I know why, though. I've asked myself why. And it has very little to do with like an egotistical look at me. As a matter of fact, I want to help the community and, of course, my family and myself. I mean, that's a given. I say, but I definitely want to help the community. I definitely want to be a good force for the community. Do you see what I'm saying? In other words, if you think about it, to get you clean water right now, if you're looking at this video, there's millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure around you right now to create the libraries, to create the road, to the world around you. If you look at the behind the scenes, there's millions of dollars and billions of dollars in infrastructure in the world around you right now. Money itself is not evil. It can be the motive as to why it's trying to be acquired. In other words, if my motive was not those things to sustain my family and to help provide for my mom and my dad and a future family and a future wife and kids, if it wasn't for those motives that were pure within my heart, that I felt were of a loving nature, but they were more, let's say I was going to go buy drugs, or I was going to go make people be prostitutes, or does that make sense? In other words, that's the motive. You know, then you could say it's easy to see how that world there is enslaving people and trapping them in a world of pain, sin, and misery. And so you could acquire wealth in that respect monetarily, but you're failing to acquire wealth in your heart. And so the motive of the two are very different. So examine the motive. Number 2, how do I plan to get wealthy? And will it help everyone involved? Okay, so here's the other one. How do I plan to get wealthy, and will it help everyone involved? And when I say involved is, if you look at this, again, the city behind me, you could say to the people that built that big building, there was people that were building it, the contractors, they made an income. The people working inside the building are having jobs to apply for their family. For example, with Advocare, we build champions. When someone uses our products, they get healthier. That extends their lifespan. That it helps them have more energy. So it also helps them get a second income. So there's a synergy. In other words, is how you're acquiring your wealth, creating a synergy of wealth for not just you? Is everyone involved growing along with you? Is the wealth rising? Is the wealth a tide rising all the ships? That's question number 2. Okay? And then 3, think about the story and ask yourself, do you know God? Do I know God? Ask yourself that. In other words, as you saw in this story, if your concern is to get to heaven, as mine is, or not come back reincarnated, that's the general idea, right? Not come back to reincarnated and repeat this whole Maya thing again, and or if you're just strictly into Christianity or strictly a Christian viewpoint, not go to hell and go to heaven, right? Well then, ask yourself, do you know God? As you saw in the story, think about this story. Where would you see yourself? Are you maybe posing but not having enough love in your heart? Or are you in the middle? Like, see, there's really no way to judge. This isn't a story about how drinking alcohol helps you get closer to God. It's just saying you cannot judge. That's all the story is really saying. You cannot judge. Okay? All right. So as we start wrapping up here, just keep in mind that it's going to be very easy to judge people and even yourself at times, or even feel somewhat holier than thou sometimes, or maybe you might be the opposite. Maybe you might be full of guilt, right? So you really have to take a moment to be introspective and really know where you're at. One of the most common things you can do in a subject like this is to be so quick to judge, Understand that as children of God, it is our right and what God wants of us is to honor His light and request it of Him and demand it of Him as His children for His love and His grace and His wisdom. Okay, you can ask that willingly and rightfully as an heir to a throne and a kingdom. Now, that said, there is a level of humility, so ultimately you are the ultimate, you're going to have to seek the truth within yourself, okay? And I'd love to hear a little bit about what you have to think about this, any good ideas, insights. Again, this video was challenging to make because it challenges some notions from the past, or maybe some fundamental ideas as to riches and wealth, and that's why I made it. Right? At the same time, I made it to help you and give you some insight. This is really a tool and a framework that I use today, right now, and likely forever. But this is Jacob Adams signing off. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe below. Share the video. Do whatever you like. See you next time. Bye.